Welcome friends to another r/MaliciousCompliance video. Today we've got some awesome stories, and our first story of the day is from StarsBear75063. Is this what you want? Fine. The customer is always right. I drive for Uber in the Dallas area, and I received a ride request. I picked up the gentleman, and it was a good ride. About 5 minutes in, the rider asked me what was on my rear view mirror. I told him it was my interior cam. He got mad and told me to turn it off because he didn't like such surveillance. I reminded him that the Uber app would have said there was a video recording. There's also signs on the door. He could have declined booking the trip if there was a problem. It escalated when he yelled, "You better turn that dang thing off or else." "Or else?" I asked. "Yes," was the reply. "Turn it off or stop this trip." I verified with him his request, and he said, "Yes, turn the darn thing off or end this trip." To which I said, "Fine, have it your way. I will comply." At that, I exited the highway and pulled into a convenience store. He acted a bit stunned before shouting, "What the heck are you doing?" I calmly stated, "You said either I stop recording or I end the trip. As I have no intention of stopping the recording, I'm letting you out here." That did not go well for him as he started screaming and hurling abuse beginning with F, questioning my parentage, and although correctly guessing my sexual orientation, was rather rude about it. I calmly ended the trip as per his request. That was the compliance. Here's the maliciousness, which although I'm very capable of, I rarely do. When ending the trip on the app, I gave him a 1-star rating as we can't give 0. As he was really getting on my last nerve, I added feeling unsafe and abusive rider. As he continued to rant, I pointed to a police car that just pulled in and told him, "If you don't leave my car immediately, then perhaps you might want to explain why not to that nice officer." After getting a few more cutting jabs and getting out, he tossed his open protein drink in my head, hitting the headrest and spilling all over the floorboard. It was that time that I got a text message from Uber support asking if I was alright. I said I was. They told me his account was suspended and asked if I could send the video clip to them. I said I would and also mentioned the mess. Uber support told me to just send them a picture and he would be charged a $75 cleaning fee, which I got within an hour. So I did exactly what the rider wanted, but due to his petulant behavior, he got a canceled Uber account and it cost him $75. If he would have just left, I wouldn't have done a thing. But play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you got into an Uber and you found out that they were recording the entire inside of the vehicle at all times, would that make you uncomfortable, or would that actually reassure you a little bit? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Our next story is from JL Zania. Okay, I won't interrupt you again. I waitressed in Chicago to pay for my tuition at the U of I, in a popular Italian restaurant. The owners were true paisanos fresh off the boat. It was a very decent job for a student. I made good money. The chef, who happened to be the owner's sister, always sent me home with enough leftovers to make it through the week. I had a great schedule, and the owner's wife was a nice lady. The owner, however, was a misogynist jerk of the first degree, and we did not get along at all. One day he called an informal meeting right before opening, and everyone from the dishwasher to the hostess was gathered around a big table. I was the last person to sit down because I'd been in the kitchen for some reason, and while in the kitchen, I noticed that a burner had been left on, and a large frying pan had a good olive oil fire going. I ran to the table and said, "Enzo, there's a fire," and he shouted, "Don't interrupt me." So I said okay, and sat the freak down. I knew that the building wasn't going to burst into flames immediately because the pan was under a large hood and there was nothing else on the stove, so I sat down and nudged a coworker and pointed. The kitchen had 2 small windows in them and you could see the stinky black smoke. Everyone ran into the kitchen except for me. The fire was extinguished and the only residue was the smell of smoke and a burned pan. Enzo came storming out and started to berate me, and I just said, "You told me to shut up." I could see that several other employees were stifling their laughter, but alas, no one applauded. Frying with olive oil? Any good Italian cook worth their salt uses butter for frying and keeps the olive oil for salads. Duly noted. All I know is it takes a strong dedication to being maliciously compliant to know that there is a raging pan fire in the kitchen and for you to go and just sit down anyways. Got some big, this is fine energy going on here. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Our next story is from Lol What Mufflers. You don't want to work on another technician's comeback? Fine, work on your own. I work at an automotive shop. We're high volume, and occasionally cars come back for a recurring issue. Most of the times, these issues go back to the technician who didn't properly repair it on the first go-around. But there are exceptions to the rule, such as in this story. I gave one of the technicians, who is considered top tier, a check engine light concern. Of course, we try our best to look at the previous history to see if this is a comeback. In this case, the vehicle had been here 7 months ago, also for a check engine light. However, the issue had been repaired with a software update, and the owner had 7 trouble-free months with the vehicle. The technician who looked at it this time was not the same one who performed the repair 7 months earlier. I give him the vehicle, and within 5 minutes he's calling me to come see him. Here we go. To preface the next part of our story, this technician has about 15 years of age on me and 0 experience in dispatching work. Dispatching shop work has been my job for about 4 years. Same shop all of this time, mind you. Right away, the technician, who is upset, says he's not fixing this vehicle. Someone else worked on it and they didn't fix it properly, and now it needs a major repair. He proceeds to tell me that he should never get someone else's comebacks and that he's refusing to repair it because someone else worked on it in the past. Great. I did my best to explain that this time around has nothing to do with what's happening now. Had it been, we would have been working on the vehicle well before 7 months. Due to what the repair is. This is a person who will not listen to me, or most people, once he's upset. Something's psychologically wrong there, but not the point of the story. Being that I know I'll get nowhere by engaging him, and also getting upset, I tell him to pull the vehicle out and we'll move on, because he's wasting time by making a fuss over the situation. He complies. As I walk back in the office, an advisor comes up to me, says he has a customer who was just here for an oil change, and now the cover that goes underneath the engine is dragging on the ground. We look up the history and find that, guess what? The technician who doesn't work on other people's comebacks worked on it last week. I wish you all could have seen the look on this tech's face when I handed him the keys and paperwork proving that he worked on it, and told him, if you don't fix other people's comebacks, at least fix your own. I mean, I know that mechanics work on all kinds of cars and probably in the course of 7 months worked on countless numbers of vehicles, but for some reason it's kind of impressive that they can't recall ever working on a car, like possibly being the technician that did that work. Maybe they even remembered working on a similar car, but it's the situation where they're so much of a narcissist and they feel they're so infallible that it's no way that they made that fault. It's just great to be able to humble people who act like this once in a while. This next story is from Leaping Lizards 10. Don't open the door for anybody? You got it, Mom. I was allowed to stay home alone when I was around 10 years old. That may seem a bit young, but I had a strong sense of safety skills and followed my mother's rules to a T. Don't use the stove, don't answer the house phone unless it's Mom or Dad, and don't open the door for anybody, even those that we knew. I lived in an apartment building where everybody knows everybody, and we were all very close. Sometimes we go to each other's places to either borrow something or visit. One day, my mom told me she was going to the store, and as usual, she would sternly tell me to not open the door for anybody. We did have people knock on the door, and I'd check to see who was there, but I would never answer it. And I was very quiet when I would check the peephole and watch TV at a low volume. My siblings, however, they had some sort of anxiety and often broke the rule. When my mom found out, she was obviously quite angry and told me once again to not open the door for anybody. Cue malicious compliance. After my mom left, I was completely alone. No siblings, nobody, just me. 15 minutes later, I get a knock at the door. I quietly walk over and check the peephole to check who it was. It was the neighbor who came over frequently. I ignored it, but she constantly kept knocking. After knocking and waiting at the door for about 10 minutes, she left. When my mom came home, she asked if anybody knocked on our door out of plain curiosity. I told her the neighbor did and was there for a while, but I didn't answer. My mom immediately gets angry with me and said that the neighbor wanted to borrow some food item from the kitchen and that I should have answered the door. I wasn't aware because my mom didn't bother to call me stating that it was okay. Usually my mom would call me to let me know in case anybody was coming to get something or drop something off, but this time she didn't. I simply shrugged my shoulders and said, "You said don't open the door for anybody, even those that we know." My mom realized her mistake and then changed the rule from "don't open the door for anybody" to "don't open the door for anybody except people that we knew." Honestly, through and through, OP's just being a great kid. If anything, I think OP's mom should be more than proud of them. Like, yeah, they can have their, oh man, when they realize they have been maliciously complianced against, but like they should follow that up with a bit of beaming pride that their kid follows the rules so explicitly. Our next story is from Water Friends IV. Michigan voter demands we accept their primary ballot as is. Okee Dokee, happy to help. I worked the polls for the Michigan primary on Tuesday. The ballot in my district had 3 sections: Democratic Party section, Republican Party section, and nonpartisan section, judges. At the top of the first 2 sections it says partisan section and vote only one party section. We also remind voters that it's a primary, so they can only vote in one section. We don't care which one, but you can't vote in both or your vote will be spoiled. People hear the reminder several times while waiting in line because they're in line next to everyone. Some people even joke about the repetition with, I know, only one party, I heard." The reason for this is so that people don't try to sabotage another party's races by voting for a long-shot candidate. For example, incumbent Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer was running unopposed. A Democratic Party voter could think, hey, I don't need to cast my vote for governor for Whitmer because she'll win her party's nomination. So I'll cross parties and try to mess up the Republican nominee. You're only allowed to vote for one party, and everyone gets to vote in the nonpartisan section, regardless of how you voted in either section. If someone does vote incorrectly, either on purpose or by mistake, the ballot is rejected. It gets spoiled, and we go through a very accountable method of issuing a second ballot and giving the voter another chance to vote correctly. One voter's ballot was rejected, and they were very upset that their ballot was getting rejected each time they attempted to rescan it. We, one Republican poll worker and one Democratic poll worker, offer help without looking at the ballot. We explain that they voted incorrectly and must spoil the ballot. They do it themselves by writing "spoiled" across the ballot in large letters, folding it in half to protect privacy and turning it in. Well, this voter would have none of that shady election fraud BS and wanted their ballot cast exactly as they marked it. Okay, sir, we're happy to help. There's a feature on the scanner where you simply touch "Accept ballot as is." This is mostly used when scanning ballots that are sent in absentee and the person's not there to recast a proper ballot. But we were happy to oblige this person and tapped "Accept ballot as is." The ballot slid in and was scanned while the voter muttered, "That's more like it." This meant his ballot would not count in the primary. It's an illegal ballot. He wasted his time coming to the polling center, waiting in line, filling out his application to vote, marking his ballot, and complaining to us. Have a nice day, sir. This might be a controversial opinion, but if somebody is so incapable of filling out that ballot properly or understanding that they made a mistake, maybe it's for the best that their vote didn't get counted. And our final story of the day is from Salmonic92. Can't quit my job if I'm taking the uniform home? Guess I'm leaving naked. So back when I was a teenager, around 14 years old, I worked for the shop down the road as their weekend baker, which was mainly just defrosting pre-cooked items or browning pre-cooked bread in the ovens. My boss's daughter also worked there as checkout staff. However, she would just call in sick or hungover every weekend, so of course her dad would let her off the hook and make me cover her shift. So I would work 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. most weekends. After a couple of years, I decided I was quitting and gave them my 2 weeks notice. My boss asked me to stay an extra week to train the new weekend baker, which I agreed to. At the end of the 3rd week, I went into my boss's office and did the usual, "Well, it's been great working with you," to which he replies, So OP, the extra week you work to train the new baker means you've been here for 2 years, which means according to the policy, you need to work 4 weeks notice instead, so I'll see you next week. Also, you need to give us back your uniform on your last shift, and it needs to be freshly cleaned. Being a petulant teenager who was tired of waking up at 4 a.m., I stared at him in disbelief for a couple of seconds, waiting for the crap-eating grin on his face to laugh and say, "Just kidding, have a good one." That moment didn't come, so I walked out of the office, stripped down to my boxers, folded up my baker's whites, my trousers, and even the little mesh fedora on top, walked into his office again, and dropped the uniform on his desk and walked home. He followed me down the stairs and through the shop, shouting about how I would never work anywhere again. Thinking back, that must have been a strange thing for customers to see. It was a 10-minute walk home in the summer sun, nothing arduous. Apparently, according to his daughter, who got back in touch with me a couple of years later, I'm now one of the stories my old boss tells people when he's had a few drinks, not in a nice, funny story way. Good on OP for not putting up with that kind of BS. I'm also sitting here like, you might write that in your policy, but is it legal to actually enforce that? Isn't working a notice strictly just a courtesy thing? You can't force somebody to just show back up to work. What are you gonna do, try to withhold the last month of payments because they didn't give you a longer notice? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another compliance story that was way crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or, if you missed my latest video, check out the one on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.